These aren't just statistics. They're a flashing red light on the dashboard of our education system. Part of the solution, perhaps, could be affordable, accessible pathways into the classroom. Traditional teacher preparations programs can take up to 4-5 years to complete and come with a sticker price, sometimes upwards of tens of thousands of dollars. The costs are simply too high for many prospective teachers. With evaluating how much it costs, what's the return on the investment? It doesn't take a math whiz to find out that you have to have a love of teaching. You are not doing it just for the money. So the cost can send people running for the exits before they even enter the pipeline. That's why today we're going to discuss alternative certification programs. They've been gaining national attention. Today, let's get to the bottom of it. Many say that they're efficient, cost-effective ways to get talented individuals, that's what we want, talented individuals into the classroom. Between 2018 and 2021, enrollment in these different types of programs has increased by 20%. The programs many times offer a faster path to certifications for individuals who have expertise in their fields, and I think passion for kids and learning and jumping into the arena. It's not about getting teachers in the classroom, it's about keeping them there. The reality is that way too many teachers leave the profession because they don't feel supported and valued. We need to rethink the way we structure the teaching profession. We're going to hear from innovative programs like Arizona State's Next Education Workforce. They're doing just that. By reimagining the traditional model for one teacher, one classroom, new approaches can provide teachers and students room to flourish. For example, third graders in ASU's team-based teaching schools experience an extra 1.4 months of reading growth each year. And what about math? That's what you're asking me. Aaron, tell us about math. Their Algebra 1 students pass at rates 4 to 7 percentage points higher than their peers in traditional classrooms. Teacher turnover and satisfaction also has greatly improved. These results show that we can't treat teachers like revolving doors and still expect schools to thrive. We just want our kids to do well. Why aren't they teaching them? And we've got to give teachers everything, every tool we can to succeed. Other colleges, as Appalachian State, have developed similar models. Yes, it's another ASU. Appalachian State presses harder to expand these ideas. They say it's time to think boldly and spotlight changes that will not only bring more people into the teaching profession, but ensure that they also want to stay that. With that, members, I've got great news. We, once again, this subcommittee is known to putting together all-star panels, and we've done that today. So in just a moment, members, we're going to turn to you, our guest, and listen to the cutting edge, what's happening in the field of how we can do it. But first, let me yield to the ranking member for her opening statement. Ranking member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. We look forward to the conversation. I'm optimistic that we can have a meaningful and bipartisan conversation about the importance of growing and supporting a diverse and dynamic educator workforce that meets the complex needs of our country's students and provides them, all of them, with the opportunity for a world-class education. Ms. Pat Dorian was my high school English teacher and changed my life as well as the lives of many other students I went to school with. She instilled in me a love of language and poetry, but more importantly, a love of learning. I expect that many of you in the room today have similar stories and remember a teacher or two who changed your lives. Teachers educate, mentor, inspire, nurture, and guide students. They are role models, community builders, and imparters of knowledge and critical thinking. Unfortunately, the path to becoming a teacher presents many obstacles. It typically requires years of expensive schooling, testing, and certification. The skyrocketing price of higher education, which I hope is something we can work on in this committee, acts as a significant barrier to many who hope to become educators. Certification can be expensive and complicated to obtain, with mountains of paperwork that deter prospective educators, sometimes even before they begin their careers. And in many places, teachers are notoriously underpaid. When adjusted for inflation, teacher salaries have been stagnant since 1990, while the cost of living rises and the cost of a four-year degree has nearly doubled since that time. Also, students do better when they see themselves reflected in their teachers. According to North Carolina State College of Education Associate Professor Dr. Agalit, as we will hear in testimony today, students of color experience a variety of benefits when they're placed in a classroom with a teacher who shares their racial or ethnic background, and Mr. Almecki will be discussing that. Yet despite 50% of students identifying as persons of color, educators of color make up just 19% of teachers in this country. Research also shows that a diverse teacher workforce benefits all student achievement regardless of race. Congress must do more to support prospective Black and brown educators to better represent children of all demographics in our schools. When examining these challenges, it might seem tempting to bolster the teacher workforce by deprofessionalizing the job, whether that be by removing or reducing educational or certification requirements, but that approach would only harm students who benefit from a well-prepared teacher to guide them through their education. So instead of lowering the standards, we should be streamlining the process of becoming a teacher and recruiting more students to be educators through apprenticeship and mentoring programs for new teachers, through student loan forgiveness, and through a competitive compensation. I'm not one to complain about a problem without offering solutions. The Biden-Harris administration has encouraged using effective and innovative teacher preparation programs, including strategies that focus on recruiting and retaining diverse candidates. Congress can build on this initiative by providing resources to help support successful, innovative teacher preparation models across the country. The Build Back Better Act provided more than $100 million for grants to fund Grow Your Own programs that supported high-need schools and subject areas, as well as improving diversity within the teacher workforce. To address the teacher shortage in this country, we also must support Title I schools and expand loan forgiveness, like the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, to support those who dream of becoming teachers. The College Affordability Act, which advanced through this committee in 2020, outlined several ways to give aspiring teachers a hand as they pursue their education. The College Affordability Act would improve programs that recruit prospective teachers, especially to address shortage areas like STEM and special education. It would also improve and expand that Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program to provide that all teachers' loan payments count toward their eligibility for loan repayment. And keep in mind that these Public Service Loan Forgiveness borrowers do pay according to income during their time of teaching. It's the balance at the end that's forgiven. We should strengthen Title II professional development programs and initiatives that support recruiting and retaining diverse educators. The Teacher Diversity and Retention Act, introduced by several members of this committee, would also bolster teacher recruitment programs by establishing grant programs for education students at HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions, as well as providing dual certification in special education and behavioral management so teachers can meet the needs of every student. There are also wonderful mentoring and coaching programs that support educators and improve retention. And finally, Mr. Chairman, I encourage us all to encourage people to go into the teaching profession by recognizing the importance of our system of public education and not bashing it. I think bashing public education discourages people from wanting to go work there. Of course, we can work together on improvements to the system, but let's lift up educators who choose to teach. And I look forward to hearing from all of our witnesses and to a productive discussion today, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you very much, Ranking Member. Pursuant to Committee Rule 8C, all committee members who wish to insert written materials into the record may do so by submitting them to the committee clerk electronically in Microsoft Word format by 5 p.m. after 14 days from the date of this hearing, which is October 9th, 2024. And without objection, the hearing record will remain open for 14 days after this date to allow such statements and other extraneous material referenced in the hearing to be submitted for the official hearing record. And now it's time to introduce our distinguished all-star panel of witnesses. Our first witness is Dr. Carol Basile, who is Dean of the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College at Arizona State University, located in Tempe, Arizona. Her work is centered on redesigning the education workforce and changing practices in teaching and leadership preparation. She is currently working with education organizations nationally and internationally to design systems and enable organizational change in these areas. Prior to joining ASU, Dr. Basile was Dean and Professor of the College of Education at the University of Missouri in St. Louis. Welcome, Dr. Basile. Our second witness is Dr. Melba Spooner, who is Dean of the Reich College of Education at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. She began her higher education career at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, where she was a faculty member and served in various roles in the College of Education, including assistant dean. Dr. Spooner earned her education doctorate in curriculum and teaching from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro, and her master's and bachelor's degrees in early childhood education from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Welcome, Dr. Spooner. Our third witness will be introduced by our ranking member. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We welcome Mr. Sharif Al-Mekki, the founder and CEO of the Center for Black Educator Development, an organization dedicated to transforming the teaching profession and ensuring that Black educators are supported and celebrated. Prior to establishing the center, Mr. Al-Mekki served at the U.S. Department of Education as Principal Ambassador Fellow under the Obama administration, and previously had served as the principal of Mastery Charter Shoemaker in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In 2014, Mr. Al-Mekki founded the Fellowship Black Male Educators for Social Justice, and it's an initiative aimed at recruiting, retaining, and developing Black male teachers. Mr. Al-Mekki holds a BA in Criminal Justice from Indiana University at Pennsylvania, and a master's in elementary education and an administrative certification from Cheyney University. Welcome, Mr. Al-Mekki.
Welcome, Mr. Al-Mekki. And our final witness is Dr. Greg Mendez, who is principal of Skyline High School in Mesa Public Schools, located in Mesa, Arizona. In this role, he is building a strategic school staffing model where educators work on teams to deliver rigorous teaching and learning experiences. Dr. Mendez has over 18 years of experience in education and holds a doctorate of education and leadership and innovation from ASU, Arizona State University, in addition to a master's degree in education from ASU and another master's degree in athletic administration from Concordia University, Irvine. Welcome, Principal Greg. We're glad to have you here. Thank everybody for being there. Members, I told you it was an all-star panel, and I'm looking forward to their testimony. Under committee rules, I would ask that our witnesses, I've talked to most of you, it's 5 minutes. Because we like to talk, we limit everybody to 5 minutes. And so we have your written testimony, and if you want to submit more, we'll take it. But your talk today, your oral presentation, will be limited to 5 minutes. And I don't have to tell you this, but I'm supposed to tell you this, that we expect everybody, you have a responsibility to provide accurate information to the subcommittee that we can make better choices with your accurate information. Dr. Basile, you won the toss, so you will be going first. It's my pleasure to recognize you for 5 minutes. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Chairwoman Fox, let me first thank you for making the trip to Arizona and taking the time to learn about our work. Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, and esteemed members of the subcommittee. Allow me to start with 2 assertions. The first one may seem obvious, and the second one may seem at first contrarian, but bear with me. First, people are different. They look different, they have different tastes, and they learn in different ways. And second, the problem we are accustomed to calling teacher shortage is not really, or not only, a teacher shortage. We do not have a shortage of credentialed teachers. We have a shortage of credentialed teachers who want to do the job. And the reason for this is connected to the fact that people are different. The default model of schooling, one teacher, one classroom, treats all learners as identical. It mistakes the statistics of an average learner for a real human being. And in assuming that all learners have the same educational needs, it assumes that all teachers need the same set of skills. So our teacher preparation programs have been designed essentially to mass produce identical educators. And this tells us a lot about why so many credentialed educators would rather do something else than teach. The one teacher, one classroom model asks all teachers to be all things to all people at all times. That's a tough ask of an experienced teacher, let alone a recent graduate of a teacher prep program. Second, most of the time the job looks the same on day 3,000 as it does on day 1. And there are few pathways for advancement that offer professional growth. And 3, there are too few paths to specialization in areas that would effectively address learner variance. Teacher shortage is a downstream effect of a workforce design problem. It's bigger than pipeline building. A potential solution to that problem is an education workforce comprised of professionals with varying sets of skills, different areas of content knowledge, and multiple modes of pedagogical expertise. And we need them to work in coordinated teams. At Arizona State University, we have a strategic staffing initiative we call the Next Education Workforce. Through this initiative, we partner with schools and school systems and aspire to, one, provide all students with deeper and personalized learning by building teams of educators with distributed expertise, and empower educators by developing better ways to enter the profession, specialize, and advance. In 2024-25 school year, we anticipate working with more than 150 schools across 40 school systems and in 15 states to implement these team-based models. This work will impact upwards of 25,000 students and 1,000 educators on more than 300 teams. This work has broad implications for teacher preparation. Teacher preparation programs in schools need to work together to accomplish three things that are not currently doing well enough. One, make work count. The work teacher candidates perform in schools is work. Work should be compensated. Many teacher candidates work other jobs to support themselves and in many cases their families as they complete coursework and their professional experiences. This is a major cause of stress and burnout. Right now, there are residencies, alternative certification pathways, and apprenticeship models that allow teacher candidates to be paid while they work towards certification. These are a start, but in every case, we need to get the professional experience right. The second is to get the professional experience right. In addressing the problem of paying teacher candidates, programs often create another problem by asking teacher candidates to perform the roles of experienced teachers. But they're not experienced teachers, and it's not reasonable to expect to retain people that are hired to perform tasks they are not prepared to do. So for their sake, and for the sake of the students they serve, teacher candidates should be given clearly defined responsibilities that allow them to learn in stages, gain competencies, and grow professionally. So put them on teams. Work with schools to create professional experiences that teacher candidates can perform successfully and that serve identified learning needs in schools. Our field, working with government at all levels, has no shortage of solutions to parts of the problem. And while each of those solutions will measurably advance progress in addressing some part of the problem, they are not systemic solutions. ASU's model offers a systemic solution. We can make teacher preparation programs affordable through scholarships, but that doesn't mean we can retain educators in the field. We can implement residencies and paid apprenticeships and other ways of making work count, but that doesn't address the isolation and the lack of professional advancement pathways inherent in one teacher, one classroom models. We can also make it easier to become a teacher, but that doesn't guarantee the teacher retention or good learning outcomes. So if we have an ask of our government, it's this: support local innovations in workforce design and teacher preparation that make the profession both more accessible and more attractive. Reward school systems that manage their human capital in ways that lead to demonstrable improvement in learning outcomes. Catalyze partnerships between state agencies and teacher preparation programs and school systems. The challenge in teacher preparation is not merely labor shortage, but a workforce design challenge. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Dr. Basile. You gave us 6 seconds back, so thank you very much. Up next is Dr. Melba Spooner. Welcome to the committee, and you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, Dr. Fox, esteemed committee members. Good morning and thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. I would like to also extend a very special appreciation to Dr. Fox, who we are so proud that you represent App State, and we appreciate all the support you have provided to educators, schools, and classrooms, not only in North Carolina, but across the nation. I began my career in education as a teacher assistant and had opportunities to serve as a classroom teacher and assistant principal in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District before transitioning to a career in higher education. I appreciate the opportunity to share some insights into the enduring legacy of how we are preparing educators at App State. That said, we are also constantly growing and changing how we do this important work of recruiting, retaining, and supporting educators and schools across the country. We utilize research-based content and curriculum to prepare candidates for the classroom. For example, in recent years, the examination of the teaching of reading has become more important. In response to the needs of the children, families, and teachers in North Carolina and beyond, we have engaged in an extensive curriculum redesign process. Our prospective teachers are immersed in a curriculum aligned with the science of reading, and before they graduate, candidates are required to be proficient in literacy instruction. To ensure their full preparation, they're also required to complete extensive coursework and supervise clinical experiences in schools and in classrooms. To successfully recruit, prepare, graduate, and support exemplary teaching professionals, we invest time in building partnerships with school districts across the state. This allows us to provide a wide variety of experiences for candidates in schools with students who are representative of North Carolina's population. A key component of our educator prep program is an emphasis on classroom management. Prospective teachers are involved in classroom instruction and clinical experiences that allow them to observe, learn, and practice a variety of techniques. They graduate with the necessary expertise in planning instruction and utilizing classroom management skills tailored to the developmental and behavioral needs of the students in their classrooms. Graduates do not just leave the university with a diploma. They leave ready for the workforce with the necessary skills to take on one of the hardest and most rewarding careers that exist today. Additionally, all prospective teachers are required to engage in a series of professional development activities before completing their programs of study. This requirement enhances their classroom learning and clinical experiences while ensuring they understand the value and commitment to lifelong learning and continuous professional development. The pre-graduation requirements and post-graduation support that are provided have real significance nationwide. I'm proud to share that for the 8th consecutive year, App State has led the nation in the number of alumni who hold the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards credential. Currently, 2,321 alumni have earned this outstanding credential. In our rural area of northwestern North Carolina, there is, just as there is nationwide, a workforce deficit in high-needs areas, such as special education and STEM education. Many schools and direct districts in the region face limitations and challenges as they work to meet the needs of their students. App State provides critical assistance not only by graduating highly prepared and proficient teachers, but also by partnering with P-12 school districts and community colleges to develop initiatives and alternative pathways to fill workforce gaps. Making teacher preparation programs more flexible, accessible, and affordable is key to recruiting and retaining great teachers. We're constantly addressing the needs of the market, adapting and refining recruitment and retention efforts, and ensuring we offer the flexibility students need to graduate on time and with some of the lowest college debt in the nation. We highly regard our responsibility to develop programs that address educators' ongoing educational needs. Furthermore, we work to address the market demand for serving adult learners, those who begin their education careers at community colleges, as well as those who enter the profession through an alternative pathway. I'm immensely proud to be part of App State's continuing legacy of preparing extraordinary teachers. Of course, none of our accomplishments would be possible without the support from the North Carolina General Assembly and the UNC Board of Governors. And I'm grateful to our state legislators and the taxpayers of North Carolina who helped to ensure that the UNC system remains the economic engine of our workforce and an exemplar for the nation. Thank you for holding the hearing with us today and for your commitment to supporting current teachers and educators of tomorrow. I appreciate the discussion and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Dr. Spooner, you did great. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the insight. Mr. El-Mekki, thank you so much. You are recognized. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you so much, Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Hayes, and esteemed members of the Committee on Education and the Workforce. Thank you for the opportunity to address you on the critical need to increase educator diversity to better serve all students. My name is Sharif El-Mekki. I'm the founder and CEO of the Center for Black Educator Development, dedicated to rebuilding the National Black Teacher Pipeline. As an educator and a principal, I realize that many students rarely encounter teachers who look like them. This disparity is a national crisis. Research consistently shows that all students benefit from a diverse teaching workforce. Teachers of color bring unique perspectives that enrich learning environments, serve as role models, reduce stereotypes, and foster cross-cultural understanding. For students of color, having teachers who share their backgrounds leads to improved student performance, higher graduation rates, and increased college enrollment. Studies show that Black students who have one Black teacher by third grade are 13% more likely to enroll in college, and if they have two, that spikes up to 32%. For white students, exposure to diverse educators prepares them for a multicultural society and enhances problem-solving and critical thinking skills. And despite Black students making up about 15% of the student population, Black teachers comprise only about 7% of the teaching workforce. This gap reflects systemic barriers that prevent Black individuals from entering and remaining in the profession. Students with disabilities from marginalized communities face compounded challenges. Diverse educators are more likely to implement inclusive practices and advocate for all students, fulfilling the promises of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and unfortunately, there's a significant shortage of special education teachers, exacerbating disparities for students with disabilities. Several barriers hinder the recruitment and retention of diverse educators. The COVID-19 pandemic has intensified teacher shortages. Enrollment in teacher preparation programs have dropped significantly, disproportionately affecting educators of color and high-need areas like special ed. The high cost of teacher preparation programs and unpaid student teaching disproportionately impacts candidates from low-income communities. Lack of mentorship, professional development, and leadership pathways leads to higher attrition rates amongst educators of color. At the Center for Black Educator Development, we introduce teaching as a viable and esteemed career path early through high school academies, pre-apprenticeship programs, and the We Need Black Teachers campaign. We develop mentorship programs, offer professional development, and ensure educator prep programs equip teachers to support students with disabilities effectively. We advocate for scholarships, stipends, and access to loan forgiveness programs to alleviate financial burdens. And importantly, we push for paid training opportunities, understanding that unpaid periods can be prohibitive for individuals from low-income backgrounds. Allow me to share the story of Amir Williams, a 2024 graduate who participated in our programs both in high school and in college. Upon graduation, he was hired to teach at his alma mater. As one of only 2 Black men in his teacher prep program, our support provided him with the community, network, and skills necessary for him to be successful. His journey, and many others, exemplifies how supportive, rigorous pathways can lead to successful outcomes without lowering professional standards. We also host the annual Black Men in Education convening, the largest gathering of Black male educators in the country, bringing together over 1,000 educators for professional development workshops, discussions, and networking. I extend an invitation for each of you to attend our upcoming event in November. Educator diversity is essential for educational equity and excellence. By bringing diverse voices into our classrooms, we enrich the learning environment for all students, especially those from marginalized communities and students with disabilities. I urge this committee to support federal programs like the Augustus F. Hawkins Centers of Excellence that directly address educator diversity. Invest in innovative, rigorous, alternative pathways that offer accessible and paid routes into teachings and systems that improve the working conditions once they get into the schools, and support organizations like and coalitions like the 1 Million Teachers of Color and National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. Enhance IDEA implementation by preparing educators to meet the needs of students with disabilities and addressing shortages in special education teachers. And address financial barriers by providing financial support during training periods, loan forgiveness, and scholarships. Together, we can build an education system that reflects our country's rich diversity and upholds the promise of equal opportunity for every child. Thank you for your time and dedication to this critical issue. I look forward to your questions.
Nailed it. Thank you so much, Mr. Elmecki. Thank you very much. Our final witness is Dr. Greg Mendez. Welcome to the committee, and you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you. Dr. Fox, Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. As a high school principal, I have witnessed firsthand where the traditional methods of teacher prep programs are struggling to meet the evolving needs of not only our students, but the demands of educators as well. The current model of teaching, where one teacher works individually with a group of learners in a classroom or a small box inside of a larger box that we call school, promotes unrealistic expectations by assuming individual teachers working in isolation can meet the needs of all students. Unfortunately, the teacher prep programs not only promote this, but exacerbate it by selling the idea that one person can do the job of many and meet the needs of all students. Today, I will discuss my story about building team-based models in schools and their benefits, as well as some concerns associated with the current traditional teacher prep programs that limit our ability to hire a workforce to meet the needs of our students. Restructuring our learning environments is necessary to not only meet the demands of students, but the working conditions in which our teachers work as well. Developing team-based models was our entry point. This model emphasizes working in teams, a specialization in skills and pedagogy, and pathways for community members to contribute to the learning environment. When we began to think about team-based teaching in our school, a few tenets were established. Number one, a team will have multiple adults with distributive expertise, and number two, they will share a roster of students. During our first iteration of building teams, we noticed our teachers collaborating more, solving problems, working synergistically at deeper levels to improve the outcomes for not only students, but their own working conditions. We saw an increase in job satisfaction, innovation, and perhaps most important, on-the-job professional development. As we partnered with Arizona State University and their initiative called the Next Education Workforce, we were able to have a thought partner in what the design of our teacher workforce could be. To that end, we began to place student teachers on teams at our school. In short, our student teachers who were on teams grew as professionals and were more prepared to meet the demands of a 21st century student body than teachers who were not on teams. This is a good start. However, there is a lot of work to be done. As I interview teachers year in and year out, it is evident that teacher prep programs are still producing teachers that are suited for a one teacher, one classroom model. A few areas that stand out to me. There's a focus on scripted, one-size-fits-all lessons, and there's a focus on specific grade level and content area only. These constraints present problems when trying to hire educators, especially in a team-based model. Instead of being able to hire a specialized teacher in project-based learning, differentiated assessment, competency-based learning, and placing them on a team, I'm confined to hiring simply a 9 through 12 math teacher. Because of this approach, teachers who are trained in the traditional prep programs are expected to be all things to all kids. This simply isn't possible. Teachers are often ill-prepared and graduate from a program with a strong passion for content knowledge, but not a continuum of teaching skills. Where we can improve programs, number one, focus certifications on skills and pedagogy rather than rigid grade level bands in content areas only. Specialization in critical areas such as literacy, numeracy, assessment design, real-world application, relevancy, and design thinking. Prepare student teachers to work collaboratively, reflecting the realities of the job today. By experiencing teaching in teams during their preparation, aspiring teachers can learn to leverage the strengths and expertise of their colleagues, enhancing their own learning, and create more opportunities for working adults in our community to obtain specializations and contribute to the learning experience without undergoing an exhaustive preparation program. These are all transferable across grade levels and content areas, broadening the impact and expanding the pool of educators. By moving towards specialization and creating pathways for community members to contribute, the conditions to build a more robust and effective teacher workforce can begin. When school reform or redesign is on the table, school leaders often create and establish lofty goals. However, author James Clear would state, "You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." As such, a more intentional focus should be placed on improving our teacher prep programs if you want to improve our outcomes for our students and teachers. In closing, I ask that you consider the potential of team-based teaching models in schools and support the efforts to transform teacher prep programs for the benefit of our educators, our students, and the future of our educational system. Thank you.
Dr. Mendez, thank you very much. All our panelists, you did great. And under the committee Rule 9, we will now give you some questions to further explore the discussion of the teacher shortage. Is there a problem in America? We'll talk about that. Under the 5-minute rule, I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Toss up, is the warning light on? Do we have to do something different? Anybody want to jump in? Is that true? We got to change, Dr. Basile.
100%.
100%. So the warning light on, we've got to do something different because it's not working right now. Principal Greg, you're on the front line area. You're having a hard time hiring teachers and keeping them there?
Yes, every day. I think being able to find qualified teachers who want to do the job is very challenging. However, when we do get them, into our model, we do believe we are retaining that at a higher rate. They are enjoying the profession, but getting their foot in the door has been a definite challenge.
Very good. Now, both you and Dr. Basile both have talked about teams. What does that mean? If I am a student, what will that mean? Does that mean there's 2 teachers coming in or multiple teachers coming in? What will I notice the difference at as a student? Anybody? Dr. Basile.
So we define teams as at least 2 teachers sharing a roster of students, right? So a double roster. I talk about it like this. In what happens right now is you take a group of students, you say, here's your 25 kids, your 25 kids, your 25, or maybe 30, or maybe 60, depending on where you live. And we hope, right, that every one of those teachers is the same, that every kid is going to get the same kind of experience, and they are not. Because one of those teachers might be a brand new teacher, one of them might be an emergency teacher, one might be somebody who came in who was an engineer coming back, somebody might have 15 years of experience. What we're saying in teams is, how do all those people, then, those 4 people, because which one do you want for your kid? You want all of them. So how do you look at kids, that same group of kids, look at the variance of those kids, the needs of those kids, and now build teams of adults around those kids that address the needs, teams of adults that have expertise that address the needs.
So
of
if I'm
those
in the
kids.
classroom, it could be Miss Jones one day, it could be Mr. Rogers the next day. They are interchangeable as heads of the
Typically,
teaching?
you're in a classroom and you have all 4 teachers.
Right, there are 4. Yeah, there's 4,
Always,
and they're coming in.
right. Plus
When you're not teaching,
paraprofessionals,
you're
plus
part of a
others.
team and you're not teaching, what are you doing?
You're always teaching.
You're always
You're
teaching.
just grouping, you have a small group, you have a different small group, you're always teaching. Or you're
Okay.
planning, but you're always working.
Your high school utilizes this method, Dr. Mendez. Is it working? Is that working, having multiple teachers for each class?
Yes, I think the first impact that happens is by wrapping, like at our school, a couple of our teams are 5 teachers and a special education teacher, so 6 total, around 150 kids, 180 kids at maximum, sharing that roster. The first thing that happens is the students are known. One of our goals in our district is to know every kid by name, serve them by strength and need, and graduate them ready for college, career, and community. So with that, with having a team, students getting known is number 1, meeting their needs is number 2, but those teachers are collaborating, they're co-creating and co-designing lessons and learning experience for students. At times, there are multiple teachers in the room. At times, there's not. It still is high school. You know, algebra still has to be taught as algebra. World history is world history. Government's government. However, the impact is that teachers collectively can share their expertise to design better learning experiences to honestly meet the needs of all kids. And when we say all kids, we do mean all kids.
10-4. No, 10-4. It's working. It's good. I would imagine. When I'm part of a team, I think everybody does better, and I see that. And that's, I know, a complaint of teachers. I'm not supported. I'm by myself, and when I have somebody. So no, this is something that we all need to explore, the team approach. Dr. Spooner, we have been told, or at least it's hard for folks that are experts in their field, but are not coming through the educational path they want to teach. Like if Bill Gates wanted to teach computers, or Elon Musk wanted to teach science, that they just couldn't come in the classroom, and the barriers are so high to people that have expertise and want to give back. Is that true? And what can we do to welcome Elon Musk and Bill Gates to the teaching arena?
I would say that is true in many instances. We do have opportunities, and we're working through some possibilities. And again, strategically, we need to think about what is it for the children in the classrooms that they need to know when we begin looking at experts in disciplines. For example, we have built certificate programs where individuals can come into the profession, such as Bill Gates, or someone who may have a mathematics major.
Is it too hard right now? Would you say it's too hard? Is that an area we need to look at to make it easier?
It is an area, yes. It is an area that we all need to look at to make sure that we're doing, the word streamlining was used, to make sure that we're streamlining, working with individuals to meet the needs of or to meet their experience needs and what that looks like in the classroom, and develop more streamlined programs so that a person comes into the profession not doing a 4-year, but doing maybe a
Noted. No. You made your point. Thank you very much. Thank you all for questions. Let's go to the ranking member now from the great state of Connecticut. Ms. Hayes, you were recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. I would first like to note that I am a teacher, and teaching is a profession, not an arena, not something that people just show up and start to do the job. It takes a tremendous amount of training, of skill, of practice, of pedagogy in order to do it. And I've read all of your testimony, and I've heard you today, and I agree with you all about the need to fully fund IDEA, about teacher shortages, about paying in some of these programs. But there was something that I did not hear that I'd like to focus my attention on today. As I said, I'm a teacher. I went through traditional teacher preparation programs. My undergraduate degree was in history and secondary education. In my state, a master's degree is required, so I went on to get a master's degree in curriculum instruction, and then went on to get an advanced degree in education, which is required in Connecticut to be a department head, an administrator, a principal. So I had 9 years of teacher preparation training at teacher preparation colleges. And one of the things that was lacking from all of that training, and I bring this up today because this is informed instructional practices. I could have never been prepared in all of that 9 years of training for the death of peers of my students, having to be a grief counselor, for school shootings. I was in the classroom when Sandy Hook occurred, just 8 miles down the road from us. I was in the classroom on 9/11. Students coming in with families that are struggling with addiction, divorce, moving. All of those traumatic experiences gravely impacted students' ability to learn. Trauma has a significant impact on the ability of students to learn and behave in the classroom and interact socially. It can also lead to lower academic performances, more school absences, and an increased dropout rate. Too often, I saw my colleagues referring students for discipline as opposed to getting to the root cause of the trauma and the environments that they were growing in that were prohibiting them from thriving. Trauma-informed education can help schools identify, address, and manage traumatic stress. It can also include examining the impacts of factors such as racism, poverty, and community violence. Mr. Almecki, thank you so much for being here. My question is for you. What measures can be taken to provide professional development for teachers so that they can better support students who have faced traumatic experiences? And additionally, what are some of the barriers we see to providing those things? It has been my experience that many people enter the profession bright-eyed and optimistic and are worn out after a few short years, not because of the academic rigor, but because of all of the other things that they have no control over.
No, absolutely, and thank you for raising this very important point. My 26 years as a teacher and a principal were all in 3 Title I schools, and the ability to provide support both to the teachers as well as the students included social workers and counselors and ongoing professional development while we were in the classroom. I was also in the school during 9/11, but it would also push that beforehand. We need people who are aware of that in the educator prep programming. Many of them have not been in that space for a pretty long time and are ill-equipped at times to prepare teachers and other staff to enter schools that need this additional support. One of the ways that we look at this at the Center for Black Educator Development is we have high school students engaging in that already. Because it's a pre-apprenticeship, they're teaching first, second, and third graders who may, experience many of the things that you already have spoken about. And receiving the coaching, the mentoring, and the professional development as early as 9th grade to think about what does this mean and how does it mean, they've also become stronger advocates for themselves about what they need as current students, but they are clear-eyed and focused as they matriculate through not only high school, but then choosing college and continuing to work with us as college students. So this kind of professional development, training, and support bolsters the education, and children have to be well in order to learn at high rates.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you talking about the full spectrum and not just one class or one training, but ongoing efforts. I introduced the Supporting Trauma-Informed Instructional Practices Act, which authorizes grants designed to help schools improve how they address the complex needs of students coping with devastating adverse childhood experiences, such as parental addiction, abuse, or witnessing violence. The bill will develop or improve prevention, screening, referral, treatment, and support services to students while providing professional development to teachers, school leaders, specialized instruction support personnel, and mental health professionals. These are the types of things that have to be included in any teacher preparation program that is attempting to prepare teachers for what they will experience in the classroom. My time has expired. With that, I yield back.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the great state of Utah, where Mr. Burgess Owens is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say how much I appreciate what you guys are doing. Innovation is a powerful concept. It's something that's needed so well in this particular industry. I've been reminded that it was Horace Mann, who was the father of public education, who passed away 20 years before Alexander Bell said the words, "Hello, Watson." That "Hello, Watson" is now, because of innovation, risk, and the free market, has now turned into our smartphone. Unfortunately, the public education is still doing what Horace Mann did in the old days. So this is so important that we realize this is a national security issue. And what you guys are doing, you're leading out in terms of how our country will come back and be competitive again. And one of the areas we need to be very, very competitive. So thank you so much for that. Dr. Bezel, your testimony, we recommend that state and local government reward school systems whose innovation leads to demonstrable improvement in learning outcomes. What do you think rewards to the school systems should consist of?
So I think there are two things here. One is we're thinking about innovation. First of all, every part of government needs to give schools permission to be innovative. They can't hold them back. They need to let them do the kinds of things, the kind of structural and systemic changes we're talking about here. And two is then they need to support them with financially to make sure that these things can happen, that change can happen, that innovation can happen. This is not without some financial support.
Okay. One of the things that I meant to mention also, in every industry, the free market rewards success, and it also gets rid of failure. We need to bring this to this industry. How can we, and I'd like to get your suggestion, how can we, or is there some system in which we can start rewarding those who truly are good at their occupation, that they can literally make enough money that income is not their issue, like every other industry we have out there? There's no cap. At the same time, find ways that those who are not doing the job find something else to do. So any suggestions, Dr. Bezel, with that?
It's a good question. I don't know that I have a good answer at this time.
Can anybody address that? Because I know this is something that's so unique and different with this industry that we have not addressed yet. But when we talk about innovation, this is the time to really break out of the old school way of thinking. How can we bring the best in the world, the best in our country, to this industry if they love teaching, but they just can't afford to do it? So any suggestions out there of how to state, local, government collaboration?
I hesitate to suggest that teachers and educators are going to make as much as people make in the free market. However, I would say that salary is a tremendous issue. It should not cost money. You should not go into debt to lead a classroom. You should not go into debt to lead a school. This is absolutely critical. The other part, I would say that we're talking about teachers, but one of the most important levers to ensure that teachers are effective is highly effective principals. There are only 100,000 public school principals in this country. They could all fit in Penn State's football stadium. And if we can't get that right, both with the salary, the training, the ongoing coaching and mentoring, it's going to be a lot harder to support the 3.5 million and the teachers and the 50 million students. So I would say salaries, loan forgiveness, paid student teaching, all of these things, as well as just better designed working environments that takes investment. It costs money to create. Teachers should not be isolated. They should be coached, mentored. When I first became a teacher, I was on my way to law school. I decided to become a teacher because someone pointed the impact that could make. I had an instructional coach, and I had an in-house mentor. Those are two investments that allowed me to flourish.
Okay, I'm going to say this. My dad was a college professor for 40 years. My mom was a teacher. I know the excitement, the passion that those who have this in the profession. We need to start thinking differently. I do believe there has to be a way, like every other industry in our country, that free market be brought into this. We have to figure out a way to break out of this mindset. We have too many good people leaving the profession to do something where they can afford to have a life. We have people that will literally come out of different organizations, different corporations, if they could afford to stay within this industry and do the very best for our kids. So again, it's a different way of thinking, but we have a chance now. We're talking about innovation. Let's kind of put everything on the plate. Let's think differently than we have for the last 150 years. It's time to leave the Horace Mann era and come to where we're now looking at smartphone concepts and ideas and breaking the system that has not been working for us for so long. With that, I want to yield back. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the great state of California. Representative Kiley, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for holding this hearing. A very important topic. And the reality is we need to be doing a lot more to support our teachers. And I say that not just because I was a high school teacher, my mom was a special ed teacher, but because any educator or parent or student, for that matter, can tell you that the most important thing when it comes to driving educational success is having a highly effective teacher in the classroom. And right now, the system is not working the way it should, or at least it's not getting enough folks into the classroom and keeping them there. 86% of public schools have said they struggled to hire teachers for this school year, and 16% of teachers left their school between the 2021 and 22 school year. And in fact, enrollment in teacher education, teacher preparation programs is just 70% of what it was a decade ago. And it's understandable why in some sense. Often preparing to be a teacher, going through a certification program requires years of expensive schooling. And then once you do ultimately get in the classroom, teachers often don't get paid what they should. So we definitely need to have alternate pathways into the classroom, as several of the witnesses are making possible. But then the other side of it is retention. I mean, I think that for all the years of prep that is often necessary to become a teacher, then once you're in the classroom, all too often teachers are just left to fend for themselves. There's not the level of professional development that is needed. And I think it is underappreciated what a challenging task being a teacher is, what a demanding form of leadership it is, where you're placed in front of 30-some young people who may have a lot of things on their mind on any given day other than what you want to teach them. And so just the classroom management aspect of it, and then actually being able to impart knowledge when you have people at varying different levels of proficiency. It can also be isolating since you're spending hours and hours a day without the collaboration of other adults. And then even once the school day is over, teachers can spend hours grading papers, giving detailed feedback, and again, not necessarily getting the compensation they deserve. And then in addition to all of that, we're living in a rapidly changing world where the purposes of education, where the nature of the economy, the demands of our workforce are changing quite rapidly. And so all of that serves to really put the challenges that we face, or make the challenges that we face, quite urgent. And so I'm encouraged to see some of the ideas at this hearing. One other thing I'll mention is that there are also opportunities. Just the last couple days, OpenAI released its new advanced voice assistant, which anybody now on their phone can effectively have a personal tutor with limitless knowledge that is specifically tailored to your level of proficiency. These tools, Khan Academy is also incorporating it into its offerings. They can also be used for things like grading. For a lot of the things that make teaching challenging, scaffolding, they can be of assistance. Now, none of that is to say and to deny that the teacher-student relationship is absolutely fundamental. So I think that the question for the folks here, maybe for the principal as well as for our witnesses who run teacher prep programs, if you want to weigh in as well, is how should we think about these tools when it comes to preparing the next generation of teachers?
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, great. Okay. Thank you so much for your question. You're absolutely on target in terms of the ever-changing landscape of which we find ourselves. And that's part of the need that we are looking at in terms of, we run a kindergarten through fifth grade laboratory school, which means we have children in that building every day, all the time. So immersing our candidates, number one, into that schooling, into other schools, so that they practice and they see the work. But it starts with teacher preparation. In terms of our curriculum redesign, our constantly looking at how we look at that, and the technologies that we use, and utilizing those technologies to develop and help design the work that we do, but also to support that, not take it from the work of the teacher, because as you indicated, the teacher-student ratio or relationship is so critical. Thank you.
Just support to your point, working in a team, having that expertise spread out across a team of teachers, somebody who is well versed in AI or the technology you're speaking of to improve the outcomes for students is very important. And we can get to a lot more kids much more quickly if that's spread out across teams and somebody has that expertise within that group or within that school to affect the outcome of kids.
Let me just also add around the technology piece, because I think it's absolutely right on. We need technology, and we need it in the right ways. So we need technology just to power learning. We need technology to actually power teams of teachers so they can work together. We need technology then that can also power systems and change systems. Most data systems, HR systems, are built around one teacher, one classroom models. Those systems also need to change, and I believe that AI can have a big part to play in all of that. So it is broader than what is just happening in classrooms. It is the entire system and how AI can support the entire system in so many different ways to help us do what we do so much better.
Thanks very much. I yield back.
Thank you very much, and thank you. Let's go to the chair of the Education and Workforce Committee from the great state of North Carolina. It's Dr. Virginia Fox. You are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dean Spooner, thank you for your testimony about the work you're doing at the state and local level in North Carolina to equip great teachers. I've long believed the most important work in schools happens at the state and local level. You touched on this briefly in your testimony. Could you talk a little bit more, and keeping in mind I've got 2 other questions to ask, could you talk more about how you learn from local communities about their teacher workforce needs?
Absolutely, thank you. We have a very strong, and this is something that's deep in the DNA of our university and also our program, partnership, meaning that means you meet collaboratively, you meet face-to-face, you go into the community with the superintendents, with the partners. That's an advantage that I have at Appalachian, to be able to sit with them at a minimum, a quarterly basis. We also have begun to pull in more of the community college partners, presidents of community colleges, to work. So it's an intentional, purposeful work that we do to collaborate, to learn from them, so they can learn from us. We build it together.
Thank you very much. Dr. Basile, I enjoyed my visit very much to Arizona State, and am really excited about what you're doing as well as Appalachian State in terms of the teacher preparation programs. You've developed a number of connections with neighboring schools. There's a focus there also on working at the local level. How do you build trust with these districts and convince them to move away from the one teacher, one classroom model?
So change moves at the speed of trust. We say that all the time. We also encourage people to start small, right? So we're not walking in and we're not telling them what to do and saying, here's how you change your entire school at one time. We say, look, start with one team. Find a really good leader, find a really good team of teachers that are really interested in this, who understand what we're trying to do, and you start there. What happens after that is really pretty amazing, because what we've seen in schools, they start with one team, and by the end of the year, everybody's in teams, because the people look in and say, I want to work that way as well. It's helping us to retain teachers. It's helping right now, all of the data that we're getting back, teachers are more satisfied. We're seeing better retention numbers. We're seeing some early student return on student data that is positive. So all the indicators are positive, and that is helping us to build that level of trust.
Thank you. Dr. Mendez, as I mentioned to you before, we know that the key to a successful school is a good principal who hires good teachers and parental involvement. Please tell us more about how you manage the relationships with your teachers. When you started to move away from the one teacher, one classroom model, how did you ensure teachers would buy into the changes?
Thank you. To kind of echo Dr. Basile there, we started with a small team. First and foremost, we spent a lot of time reading, discussing, looking at research around the power of proximity, the power of collaboration with teachers. And once we found a group to start working together, they become the the marketing firm for the change that's happening on the campus, and those teachers begin to speak about their working conditions, how they know their students more, how their students are more engaged. And so with that, we were able to expand our teams beyond where we were, and we're up to teamed 9th, 10th, and 11th grade this school year. We're still working on 12th grade because each kid has their own path of graduation. But that's where we started, and I think there is power when teachers start to work together and collaborate. And, you know, I don't anything else to say outside of when teachers work together. Teachers are amazing people, and it's an amazing profession. And when you allow them the agency to work together and really hone in on their skills and their passions for education, the possibilities are endless.
Thank you. You know, it's not a mystery to me, it seems, that we've had difficulty in the last few years recruiting people to go into teaching. I've often mentioned it. We put an adult in a room with 30 kids, lock the door, and say, you're in there all day long, all by yourself, handling these students. And again, shouldn't be a mystery. I don't know very many people who want to go into that kind of an environment. And so what you all are doing, and you've all mentioned collaboration, you've all mentioned teams, and if you look around in the private sector, you see the word teams, you see the words associates, you see the word collaboration constantly. And I think it's very exciting that we're seeing this new approach to preparing people to teach by doing the things you're doing, really focusing on the real world. What's it going to be like to do classroom management in addition to exposing the students to the subject matter? So I'm very excited about what we're hearing today from the teacher preparation, from Dr. Mendez, in terms of what's going on. And I think that we are learning a lot, and that the world's learning a lot about what we need to be doing to have effective teachers. So thank you all very much, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. Let's go back to the great state of California, where Representative DeSaulnier is standing by, and he is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. It's been my privilege in the 3 decades or more that I've been elected office, starting with City Council, to become friends and part of the disability community. Spent a lot of time with special needs, special education, teachers, young people in California. There was a time when I was in the state legislature where Governor Brown and we developed a formula to help. It was called a local control formula. Billions of dollars reallocated to give school districts more discretion rather than have the state overly manage very different communities in a large state. And I had a superintendent I had great respect for in a medium-sized district tell me I could take all this extra money and put it into my special needs community and it still wouldn't be enough. So my question, Mr. Almiki, is the GAO just did a report that it's gotten worse. To try to attract people to go into teaching in general and retain people, particularly for this community that's grown with challenges around developmentally challenged students and population, autism and other things, that it's, GAO says 15% of the student population in the United States is in this category, but we can't get young people to go into teaching in general, but particularly into this community. And then we get these wonderful people that we all have had the good fortune to be able to work with, who want to go in this field, and they burn out. The retention is more challenging than actually getting people to go into the field. So given that it's been difficult all along, that IDEA was a wonderful idea by Congress many years ago. I've had administrators complain to how much time they spend doing the paperwork in IDEA, but would like more discretion just to solve the problem, along with the oversight that is completely reasonable for Congress to ask for and our role in this community. Could you just maybe enlighten us with the GAO report of the challenges that you see that have only seemed to be getting worse for this particular community and the needs for this community, for both attracting good teachers but retaining them, and what we need to do to accomplish that goal, to attract many of these wonderful young people to go into the field, and then to retain them and give the support they need so these kids can be successful and we change the curve.
Yes. Thank you for that question. Very important component of this ecosystem. And I would echo what some of my colleagues mentioned. The pre-work is really the preparation. We encourage our apprentices to become dual certified, whatever their content is, but then also adding special ed as a dual certification. Some are extremely interested, but say they can't afford the additional classes. So the one thing is on the front end to help and actually incentivize more and more teachers to become dual certified. We know that the student population is becoming more and more diverse. And that includes students of special needs. To be able to serve them well as doing other work, not only requires them to be prepared, but also to have the support within schools. Again, as my colleagues have emphasized, having that one classroom and one teacher trying to not only think about the 30 students that were mentioned, but also 30 diverse needs within that classroom is extremely challenging for one person to do, no matter how gifted they are. And so on the front end, preparing them, but then also making sure that the support continues throughout, because the support for a teacher is also support for the student. We believe in student-centered approaches that are teacher supportive. Having aides and assistants and other colleagues supporting that work, having policies that support students with special needs as well, and making sure that they are not being marginalized, making sure that they are reaching their optimal levels of achievement. All of these things require investment on the front end, but then continuous. Too often, the training, the professional development that our teachers receive is a one-shot deal.
The current superintendent of public instruction in California, Tony Thurman, is a friend from the same community I represent, known him for a long time. His predecessor was one of my best friends. When we talk about this in a big state like California with a lot of diversity, the bureaucracy of trying to get that, just what you described, and then the own sort of administrators' perceptions, given the shortfall in funding, is a real challenge. So even though we, as you just described it, deploying those best practices is another big challenge in big areas. Any response to that?
I would say that there are places, I'm sure, that are doing well, and the strategies that are doing well have to be magnified and exemplified and used as exemplars, and then the incentives to replicate that can continue. Because I think too often there are bright spots, but those bright spots are often disconnected from the discourse around the country about what's happening, particularly in states like California that are so large, so diverse. And I would just also say, just bringing in people from the community, they're often not invited into the profession.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, thanks for indulging me. I yield back.
Very good. Thank you so much. If you're just joining us, this is the subcommittee on early childhood, elementary, and secondary education. We're talking about the teacher shortage that America is facing. It's in every state. The teacher retention challenge is in every state. We are expecting our ranking member in just a few minutes, and as we wait on her coming, she is here. Breaking news. Yeah, she is here. So, ranking member, right on time. So, ranking member, welcome back. You are recognized. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses. I haven't figured out how to be more than one place at a time, and I was talking about the very important issue of childcare. So thank you again, Chair Bean, and for accommodating me. I'm really encouraged by some of the innovative policies and programs that exist to recruit and retain educators. And one of those promising approaches is the Grow Your Own program, in which young people from local high schools are recruited to become educators in their communities. It's especially valuable in high-need and underserved districts. In Oregon, the Educator Advancement Council has developed local and regional partnerships with districts and universities, and they provide grants for these Grow Your Own programs. And in the most recent cycle, 29 districts and universities received grants. And we're able to support career pathways into education. So Mr. Almecki, what role do Grow Your Own programs play in reducing barriers to entering the teaching profession? And how can these programs most effectively prepare aspiring, teachers for the realities of the classroom.
Yes, absolutely. I think Grow Your Own is one of the inspiring innovations that can occur. And we need to make sure that, Grow Your Own also has a standard, because unfortunately it's beginning to mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. We celebrate the work that National Center for Grow Your Own is doing and helping with states and districts work on figuring out how to build long-term pipelines for future teachers, removing financial barriers, providing paid training and ongoing support. I think for high schools, that is the bulk of our work. When I think about the 17 black men educators who were highly effective, we were doing well, relatively good looking, and none of us had been invited into the profession until after we had graduated from college. And,
Can I just ask if there's some key policy changes that could expand this and other innovative models to make them successful?
Absolutely. One is further investing in career and technical education for high school students. We have Voc Ed for every other career. U.S. Labor Department has started looking at teaching as a workforce. That is critical, and we have to continue to do that. We need the welders, we need the carpenters, we need all other things, but we also need teachers.
Absolutely.
Who will eventually do that. So to invite them into the profession early on, give them career technical credit, as well as dual enrollment credit, partnering with the IHEs to be able to have dual enrollment credit as well as CTE. So one of the biggest
Had a lot of
levers.
conversations about those two issues in this committee over the years.
Absolutely,
So
that
I also
CTE
wanna
investment.
Appreciate that, and I also want to bring it before my time expires, the issue of educator compensation. We want the best and the brightest to become educators, but research shows that compensation has had a pretty dramatic effect on whether individuals choose to become teachers, as well as how long they remain in the profession. Unfortunately, many teachers earn much less than similarly educated professionals, and some even need to rely on public assistance programs to make ends meet. So according to the Learning Policy Institute, in 2023 in Oregon, the average annual teaching salary was about $40,000, and when compared to similarly educated professionals in the state, teachers earn significantly less, and that's unacceptable. So Dr. Mendez, I understand that in Arizona, there's a significant pay gap between teachers and other similarly educated professionals. So how does low compensation for teachers affect your ability to recruit and retrain retain high-quality teachers? And then, Mr. Olmecki, if you could add how increased compensation might help improve teacher recruitment and retention, including for teachers of color.
Thank you for that. I think first and foremost for us, I know in our community, and we want to make sure that we create an environment that teachers want to be in, first and foremost. If that doesn't exist, we're not going to attract anybody to come in and teach for us anyways. Now, in terms of compensation, I leave that to the people above my pay grade in my district and in our state, and I think the people in those communities have the right to be represented and considered what's best for their community and their local context. But for me, as far as teachers coming into the profession, I did it as well. I was, a special education teacher, and I got into the profession. I knew what the salary scale was when I signed up, and I remember getting in because I wanted to help children, and I wanted to help a community out. And so knowing that, I think it's really about the environment that we create for teachers, and we've noticed that with a better environment, teachers are sticking around, and over the long haul, a lot of them do pretty well.
I don't doubt, I know educators are passionate, and oftentimes they understand and they are in the profession because they love teaching, because they want to make a difference in students' lives. But then when you look at things like, if they have their own kids, look at the cost of childcare, look at the costs and if they have student loan payments, it's just not going to pencil out. And for a job that is this important, I think we really do need to focus on compensation. And Mr. Olmecki, the clock has run out, but could you just say, would increased compensation help recruit diverse teachers?
It would support that tremendously. It's so important that we actually added that into our programming. So students who take our CTE course and then decide to become teachers, we provide a $40,000 investment in them. That is us, just a small nonprofit. $40,000, $20,000 while they're matriculating through college to help reduce costs. But then when they get to their 5th year of teaching, we give them a $20,000 retention stipend. just to be able to augment the low starting salary that many of them will have.
Understood. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Don't go too far, Ranking Member, because we are about to begin closing statements, and I yield to you for a closing statement or thought.
And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Once again, thank you to the witnesses for being here and discussing this really important topic. I know we want students of all ages, from the youngest, big supporter of investments in early childhood education, so when students get to kindergarten and beyond, they're prepared. We want all students, from the youngest to those nearing graduation, to get a high-quality, well-rounded education that prepares them for whatever path they take in life. And for many of them, that path might be a passion for teaching, but we need to make sure that they have a good, smooth path to get there that isn't going to burden them with significant debt or concerns. So to accomplish that, we must recruit and retain and support educators. And as we've discussed today, this country has struggled with teacher recruitment and retention for many years. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic didn't help any. In fact, it created new and unforeseen problems in our education system, exacerbated existing challenges that educators have been speaking about for decades. I remember talking with educators during that time and how incredibly frustrated and concerned and worried they were for their students, the health of their students, families, and not knowing what to do and wanting to do their best. But it was incredibly challenging navigating those tough years. I hope we can continue discussing innovative ways to improve teacher recruitment and preparation so educators have the skills and the support they need and students get the quality education they deserve. Thank you again for being here, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you very much, Ranking Member. So, America, we have driven the education vehicle into the shop, and we've held our breath. What is the mechanic going to say? Is it a total rebuild? What's the outlook? How much is it going to cost? And so the mechanics of education are before us, America. The good news is they have not recommended that we need a rebuild, just a tune-up with a heavy dose of innovation. And if you want a second opinion, we've got a second, a third, and a fourth opinion that have all said, America, your education system needs innovation. And it sounds like, Dr. Basile, you've said early numbers are in, and it's making a difference. And teacher burnout, I lost track of my time too. I wanted to talk about day 3,000 versus day 1. It's in your written testimony. Burnout is a big deal, and you feel like you're alone making it, you're not making a difference and you're just tired. So what y'all have recommended is something that America needs to take a look at. The federal government doesn't control education. It's local, it's states. And so if you're watching America, ASU, your choice, ASU, Arizona State, or Appalachian State has innovative ways that they're making a difference. The team approach, Dr. Mendez, Principal Greg, as I call him, you can attest that it's making a difference. Teachers feel empowered as well as know that they're supported. And so it's something to explore, and I encourage school systems across America. Let's take a look. Maybe this is our answer of handling the challenges coming before. Here are two great things to me, and I'm a salesman. One is it doesn't pit winners and losers against each other. A team approach, everybody wins. Students win, but teachers win, and we're all on the same team of making big changes for our education system. So everybody's a win. And the other thing is, I know it's always better to have more money than less money, but that wasn't the theme. You didn't all say we need massive amounts of new money. This is existing money, but just using innovation. So that's something that's very exciting. So America's education systems, if you're listening, maybe this is something you need to explore without the massive price tag that many times that people come before us. Panelists, I had pretty high expectations for you. I said that y'all were going to be all-stars in education reform, and you delivered. And in fact, you exceeded expectations. So I am delighted for each of you to come. Many people don't know it's your own dime and it's your own time to be here. And so thank you for coming forward. Hopefully we've sparked the interest of America to call you and to learn more. You've given us great information that's part of our record, and people can Google that to learn more as well. So with that, I'm looking around. Am I able to, are we ready to hit this on that? Is that okay to do? So thank you so much for everybody tuning in here. We got a great crowd here to do. Thank everybody for coming. And without objection, there being no further business, the subcommittee stands, and this hearing is now adjourned.